You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.
And the Pittsburgh Steelers become the first franchise in history to win 6 Super Bowls.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Touchdown! Kansas City! Damian Williams! Forward! Diving to the goal line! A touchdown! And a title for the Patriots!
What do you think having a 37-year-old?
We're on to Cincinnati.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, into NFL Unhinged Week 15. Not a full gang. Zach can't make it of the Gridiron Gallery podcast, but we got everybody else. JDash, Jim Muenier from the JDash Show. Niko, my co-host on the far end of the bench, and the high-low sports guys, DJ and Kelcey. We got a packed show for you. We got tons of stuff to talk about that happened last weekend. And you know, some upsets, probably some debates, and we actually had the best week. We have somebody who set the record for best week in the Pickem, and that's DJ. He had I believe 13-2 record last weekend out of 15 games, only missing 2. That was absolutely insane. So I'll go to DJ first. How have you been? Did you bask in the glory of your epic victory last week? And how are you going to keep that going now that we're moving forward?
And I say this with the most humble of response. It would have been better if you were on the show because I wouldn't have felt obligated to pick the Bengals. So I wouldn't have recklessly picked them like I said on the show. So it could have been better if you were there. And I'm just going to enjoy it and continue this hot streak. Thank you guys ever so much for allowing me to play catch up.
Man, Niko texted me after you guys got done recording. He's like, there's a lot of shots going your way. I was like, why? I basically had the same response that I have during the offseason. Why do people yell at me about the Bengals? We don't do anything to anybody. We're the most inconsequential franchise in sports right now. I didn't understand all the hate, but I'll take the blame for that one. You definitely should not have picked the Bengals. I didn't think they'd get beat by 20 by Kelcey's Cowboys. Kelcey, what the hell, man? I thought you guys sucked too. I thought we were going to suck together.
I thought they sucked as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. I had 2 shit fests at one time, but yeah, it was miserable. I don't know how they pulled it out. Never figured it out.
How are you? Like you've made quite a comeback in the Pick'em too. What do you think? How are you going to mirror yourself after your podcast partner, or are you going to continue to be the island that you are, picking the upsets and sometimes hitting?
Look, I'm still trying to get my island up here in this corner right here. Once I get my island in the corner, then we'll talk. But no, he gets to do his own thing. I'll do my own thing, and just if it works out, it works out.
Jim, are you feeling the heat? Because I believe you're still in first. If I'm not mistaken.
I'm 1 percentage point behind Gridiron or Zach.
Oh, Zach is leading, but you are right on the tail. You were leading for quite a bit, and you kind of slipped up the last couple of weeks. How are you going to make up the ground? I mean, you've been there. How do you get back on the top of the mountain?
Don't make stupid picks. Like 2 weeks ago, I picked 3 upsets that were complete ass kickings. So that's why you lose your lead. And it doesn't help when the master of picking upsets, just completely, freaking aces all of them the same week. So, luck of the draw.
Niko, you were the self-proclaimed master of the NFL Pickem. You said that on our show, and we got a lot of reaction out of everybody because I put it on Twitter the next day. What happened? You're now.
Well, first of all, don't disrespect me that much. I said God of NFL Pickem. I didn't say mastermind,
okay.
But yeah, no, I've struggled a lot. Like I said, man, I'm the Nuggets, man. I come out hot, I fall apart, man, and then I always come back because I mean, leads are meant to be broken, and I've struggled, but it's only uphill from now on. Like I said, man, leads are meant. Like I'm still here. I'm gonna work my way back. I guarantee it. I've struggled, but I mean, I can have weeks like I did the first week or that I was on the show. So I'm confident I can come back. So that's not a problem at all.
You're more Magic than Nuggets. Let's be honest.
Ooh, oh, there
Magic
we go.
the Nuggets, man. That's
hey, you're bringing up the rear with a whole 3% behind me. So
Oof.
All right,
we're getting in on it early. We're getting in on it early. There we go. Sorry, Niko, but we're gonna have to continue to bring up stuff that's gonna make you upset. The Buffalo Bills. Your Broncos are playing them right now. But I wanted to start off the show this week talking about what the Buffalo Bills have done and where we actually see them in this AFC playoff picture, because I think that it's obvious now One, that the Chiefs are just really, really good and probably better head and shoulders above everybody else in the conference. But the Steelers were inflated, and they were nowhere near as good as their 11-0 record was, dropping their last one game to a team in the Washington football team who nobody expected them to lose to. So that was 2 bad losses in a row for them. But the Buffalo Bills, what has been going on with them? Why are they where they are at this point? Is it Josh Allen? Is it something else? Kelcey, I'll start with you. What is going on with the Bills Mafia?
Hey, it's a great time to be a member of the Bills Mafia. I'll tell you that much. What they're doing is just figuring it out. Finally, you get Stephon Diggs, and all the pressure's gone off the receiving core. I mean, could you imagine just all of a sudden you get one of the top 5 receivers in the game, and he's just like, hey, yeah, come under my wings. I'll carry you guys. I got you. Don't worry. And he's probably even outperforming most of anybody's predictions. But on top of that, Josh Allen's taking those steps to get better in the offseason, and you see his motion improving day in and day out. I mean, he's not really throwing from a mysterious base anymore. He actually has a base when he's trying to throw the ball. So it's fantastic to see what he's able to do. And he has probably one of the top 3 arm talents in the league, if not the most prolific arm talent. He's definitely in the top 3.
Yeah, I think that he's moved himself. He's taken the coaching that everybody's given him ever since he was in college. It was always his footwork, and then is he going to be able to be accurate? And now I agree, his feet look absolutely way better than they ever have, and he's able to put the ball wherever he wants. It's almost like he's throwing darts at times out there. And when Stephon Diggs is open by 3 or 4 yards, you got Cole Beasley in the slot. They set that team up perfectly for Josh Allen because they got guys that can just rush the field. Cole Beasley will be in the middle. Is there
been through shit for decades, for 25 years since the last time they won the AFC East, when they were this Jim Kelly led Buffalo Bills losing?
It wasn't Jim Kelly who won the division last. It was Doug Flutie in 2000. It was like 1998 or whatever. Whenever Wade Phillips was our head coach, but it was Doug Flutie the last time.
Well, it's 220. I thought it was in 25 years. Well, I do know the last time. I thought they won they had to win the division in 1995 was the last time they won the division was in 1995.
They won it with Flutie.
Oh, okay. Well, I may be wrong.
I'm almost positive.
Because I was about to rant, like the Buffalo Bills' last division title. They made the playoffs and they lost to an expansion team, Jacksonville Jaguars, in the wild card round with Natron Means and Mark Brunell. But if it's 1998, I don't know who was in the playoffs. I know the Jags were. They played against the Patriots in the first round and lost. But for the Buffalo Bills, this is their year. They're going to finally end the streak. They're going to be on top of the AFC East. They can finally, extend their middle finger to the East, to where New England is just too busy super camming their way down fumbles and interceptions. And the Bills are going to be the Bills. They're going to be good. And I think right now, if the playoffs started today, they're in the AFC Championship game against Kansas City. And they're not beating Kansas City, but they're in that game. And that's a massive improvement from last year.
It's one of the bigger turnarounds, I think, of any franchise in recent memory. Maybe Cleveland is also in that conversation with where they are at this point of the season. DJ, can the Bills beat the Patriots? I mean, I know they can. Everybody can beat somebody else. But in your mind, do you actually see them being able to pull off that kind of an upset?
I think they could beat just about anyone besides the Chiefs. I think they can score with the Chiefs, but they don't have that great of a pass rush necessarily. Their secondary is top tier, but I don't think they're going to be able to get after Patrick Mahomes. No one on their front line screams, oh my God, how do we stop this guy? And I think that's kind of what you need against the Chiefs is somebody who can beat one-on-ones, double teams consistently. Tre'Davious White can cover anybody. You could put him to lock up Tyreek or Travis Kelce if you want to be freaky and put him on the tight end, whatever you want to do. But they'll spread them out. There's way too many weapons. I don't think there's a team to beat Kansas City, but they sure can beat everybody else. Josh Allen looks fantastic. And they have a weird way on offense of never being behind the chains. Seems like it's never 2nd and 12, 2nd and 13. It's always 2nd and 7, 3rd and 4. They always stay in manageable spots somehow. So I think that's part of the reason they've been so successful too. It's not bombs away with Josh Allen. As fun as it would be to just see him throw 80 yards every play.
That would be probably, something. I don't know if they'd be able to win because I agree they've changed their playing style. So I don't think they could win bombing it away, but that would be one of the more entertaining aspects that we'd be able to see this season. Niko, as they're playing your Broncos right now, what do you think these Buffalo Bills can be? Do you think that they're just good enough to make it to the AFC Championship and lose to the Kansas City Chiefs? Do you think maybe they have some sort of, I would say it's a Cinderella run if they are able to do that? Where do you see them ending up this year behind Josh Allen?
Well, first of all, I mean, this doesn't piss me off talking about this because I am a big Josh Allen fan. The dude went to college right up the street here, Wyoming, not that far away. The dude is an absolute fantastic talent. He has a lot of great weapons around him. But the one thing that has shown in the playoffs, especially the last 5 or 6 years, is the best defensive team is going to come out on top, especially when it comes to playoffs. And right now, the Bills defense is lacking very much so. They have struggled recently. They're not what they were last year. And right now, if I'm looking at the playoffs, if say the Bills offense does have an off night. Say they do struggle one night. Stephon Diggs doesn't have it. Maybe Josh Allen is missing passes. Can that defense slow the other offense down? Whether it be maybe Chase Claypool, James Conner, or I mean, if we are talking about the Chiefs here, can they slow down Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce? And the answer to that is right now, no. Maybe if we're talking last year, possibly their defense was a lot more dominant last year, but they're struggling. They're struggling on defensive end. The offense can put up 50 points, but if your defense can't stop anybody, especially the Chiefs will just put 60 points back on the board. That's just how deadly the Chiefs offense is. The Bills are a fantastic team, but they're not at the Chiefs level yet. Are they the second best team in this conference right now on paper? Yes. The Steelers are. The Steelers are a big what if because they've had some bad weeks, but they were 14-0 at one point, so you have to give them some credit where credit's due. Yes, they had an easier schedule, but they still have shown how to win games, just not the last 2 weeks. They've had the Washington football team. That game was a game they should have won 100%, but this past week against the Bills, that's just the Bills are a good team. That's just facts how it is. How the Steelers go forward, and especially in the playoffs, when it comes to the second round of playoffs, if the Steelers are able to hold on to home field advantage, I don't know. I think I might give the slight edge to Pittsburgh in the postseason, even especially if they're at home. Because right now, I trust Mike Tomlin more than I trust Sean. Or I forgot their head coach of the Bills, but I trust him more in the playoffs when it comes to slowing an offense down and game planning well enough. Yeah, they struggled this past week, but at home in the playoffs, Josh Allen still hasn't had a single playoff game under his belt, so that adds to the difficulty of it possibly being that problem. So come playoffs could be a problem, but Josh Allen definitely has the talent, and Stephon Diggs, Vikings swung and miss on that. No kidding.
I don't see it as the same way you do. I think that the Steelers are showing that their first round, possibly maybe they make it out of the first round, second round exit in the playoffs, no farther. I don't think that I think the Chiefs took home field advantage now since the Steelers have 2 losses.
Yeah, well, I mean, the one argument I'll just say that coaching and defense wins you in the playoffs. And Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches in the league, and that defense, when they want to be hot, they can be at the best in the league by far. So that's why I think the Steelers have a slight edge.
He's gotten out-coached 2 weeks in a row to guys like Ron Rivera and Sean McDermott.
Both those coaches are no slouches, though.
I wouldn't say that Tomlin is that much of an X factor compared to some of the other coaches in the AFC. I think I want to talk about this a little bit. We all say that the AFC is probably the more competitive conference, but if you also look at the ESPN standings, the AFC is the only side that has teams that are already eliminated mathematically from the playoffs. So do we think that the AFC is the more competitive?
The AFC definitely has it. Where the NFC has it is that 6 through 8 range, that back end of the playoffs, the guys you don't want to meet in the first round of the playoffs, in that wild card round. I wouldn't want to play those teams, but I think the top end of the division for the AFC is so much better than the NFC right now. It's kind of not even close. But with that said, I mean, the back end is kind of where it's made because Niko even said it. Defense and coaching makes championships, and those 6 through 8 teams in the NFC, they're pretty good defensively, and they got some coaches that can coach over there. So, but I just don't think they can beat the top 5 in the AFC.
Does anybody else disagree? Does anybody think that the NFC is the more competitive division, or are we all on the same board?
Well, the NFC is the most competitive, in my opinion. It's just if you just eliminate the top heavy teams in the AFC, You have a lot of mediocre to bad teams in the AFC. And the NFC, you just have the total division that just decided not to show up in 2020.
Yeah, it's just one division that's holding that conference back. I mean, if you look at the division with the Rams, 49ers, Cardinals, and Seahawks, that all four of those teams would be, I mean, at the top of the division in almost any of the divisions, the AFC, they'd be competing at very high level. It's the NFC East has just been really, really bad. It's the Cowboys have had a down year. They've been injury plagued, especially since Dak went down. The Eagles are the Eagles. The Giants have played pretty well, pretty underrated, defensively especially, and what's the last team? The Washington football team. They have shown their strides too. So their records look bad, but they've had to play good teams. The NFC, the Packers, the Saints. I can't even think of all the top. The Cardinals, the 49ers, who are starting Nick Mullins and putting up good numbers still. They're competitive in all these games. And Nick Mullins is not a good starting quarterback in this league. The dude struggles mightily, and he's still willing his team into situations to possibly win games. He's just not that next level. The 49ers are 1 year away from the Super Bowl too. Like that NFC is stacked top to bottom, but if you look at the AFC, the one thing I think the NFC has going for it is I think there's a lot of pretenders, if I'm being honest, in the AFC compared to the NFC. The AFC, the Browns, who knows what we're going to get from there. The Ravens are hot and cold. The Bills are just showing are a fantastic team right now, but we haven't seen them in a playoff atmosphere yet. The Steelers, they lost to the football team, for Pete's sake. There's a lot more pretenders in the AFC than there is in the NFC, where you could see many of these teams in the NFC, like the Saints, like the Packers, like the Seahawks, any of those teams, when they're at their best, they are one of the best teams in the league. So that's why I think the NFC has a slight edge.
DJ, where do you land on this? Which conference do you see as the more competitive conference, or do you maybe think that they both have their strengths and weaknesses?
I honestly think they're pretty much dead even, because the NFC obviously has the best division with the West. I think most of us could probably agree the NFC West is the best division. If not, it's 1A, 1B with the AFC North, depending on how you want to slice it. But they also have the worst division, the NFC East, which we've gone on ad nauseum about that. I don't need to spend time on that. Whereas the AFC, I think every division has a quality team, and usually a second one that's a playoff caliber team. I mean, the AFC North has 3 playoff caliber teams. The South has 2. The East has 2. The West kind of has 2, 1.5, depending on how you fall on the Raiders. They haven't looked like it recently, but they're still right in the hunt. So I think it's just a little more spread out in the AFC, where the NFC, it's all in really 2 divisions, and then you throw in the Packers. Where the AFC South and the NFC West, the NFC South and the NFC West have all the playoff teams, then you sprinkle in some Packers and that sort of thing. So it's a little more spread in the AFC, but I think they're pretty much equal. I mean, the Jets hold back the AFC, just one team destroys an entire conference as far as rankings, and the NFC East holds back the NFC. So I think there's not too much difference other than just how it's spaced out.
Yeah, I think that it's not like we're in the eras where one conference is always going to win the Super Bowl. I know that it was the NFC for a while back in the 90s, and then the AFC kind of came back. But I do think that both sides have teams that could legitimately compete with the other side.
It's definitely not as bad as the NBA with the East and the West has tended to be for recently, too. It's definitely not that lopsided.
Yeah, it is. And it's not always the same teams that are back up there. I mean, the Chiefs are possibly looking towards a dynasty, but I don't see many other teams that would have the possibility to be there multiple times. I think the Saints are closing their window. If it's not already closed, we can have that debate if we want to, because they lost to the Eagles and Jalen Hurts' first start. And I know that screwed over a lot of people in the Pickem. But there are some other interesting storylines moving forward. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Monday night game as well, because can we agree that was probably game of the year? But Poopgate aside, was that the most entertaining game of the year?
Would it be too real to say second best game, or is that too far?
I could see where you give it the number 2.
I think honestly the Poopgate makes it even better, to be honest. I think you can't even take that away from it. It just makes it even more entertaining.
It's just a shitty situation to predict if that's the best game of the year.
And Lamar, I mean, Lamar's trying to Lamar trying to pull off that walk back to the locker room was cramped.
Everyone knows
we all
that
know
walk.
we all know that walk. I mean, like, come on,
I
we've
said
all
it-
been there. Like, it's not.
I said it on our show. Like I've had stomach cramps before while I had to take a poop. So like, that's probably what was cramping. It just, and when he got to the mic before anybody else asked him a question, he's like, "No, I did not pull a Paul Pierce. I did not." I was like, okay, you knew what I was going to ask, so it's obvious that's what it was. But other than that, Lamar Jackson coming back out of the locker room. Sorry, Trace McSorley, for blowing your knee. I guess we didn't need you. Lamar just had to. Lamar couldn't have taken care of that at halftime. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the Browns and what we think this does for them moving forward, because it could have been a franchise changing, maybe get out of your own way in your division, but it ended up being another tough loss. And I wanted to know what you guys think about the Browns now moving forward. And I'll go to you, Niko, first. What do you think this does for the Browns as a franchise, especially looking towards the playoffs?
Well, I said this last week on our show, man. The Browns are still the little brother. That division is run through Pittsburgh and Baltimore. There's no doubt about that. That division is top heavy. The Browns and the Bengals, yeah, your Bengals, Jimmy, have never been there. They've been there once with Andy Dalton way back when, but we saw what happened in the playoffs. That division is run by Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Cleveland, they have sucked for so long. Now, even after they're having such a good year, it's still in the back of their mind. We are looking up to you. We have to beat you. And Baltimore and Pittsburgh, it's hard to get over that hump. There's very, very few divisions in this league. I mean, we count the Patriots before this year, but that division is run by one or two teams. And this is the case. This division is the Browns, the Bengals have always been at the bottom. They're always been looking up. The Browns, as talented as they are, still have to get over that hump. I mean, it's very hard to put that in the Browns' minds. That organization has been such in a shitter for so long, having to face the Pittsburgh Steelers, having to face the Baltimore Ravens, where, yeah, they may be struggling a lot and they have their flaws, but they still have in their mind, you're our little brother. We're not letting you beat us. And that's one of the reasons the Browns' downfall. They had that game in the bag. And they fumbled it. I mean, the Browns, they have talent. Myles Garrett should be up for Defensive Player of the Year. He deserves to be in the conversation. The dude has been unbelievable in the running game and the passing game. The Browns has talent, but it's that mindset. Especially when it comes to playoffs. If I'm looking at the playoffs, I'm picking the Steelers or Ravens to beat the Browns if that's the matchup that happens, because the Browns have yet to show that they are that one or two in that division. The Browns are just they still have to get that out of their mindset for them to get over the hump. Maybe that happens soon. I don't know, but for right now, they're still right there. They're still the third best team in that division, in my opinion. Until they get it out of their head that they're actually a good team, that they're not as shit as they were in the years past, they're still going to be the little brothers, and that's unfortunate way it is.
Jim, I want to go to you next. What did you think about this situation for the Browns? I mean, it was – I think that they should have won. Obviously, they probably should have. You can make the argument they maybe scored a little bit too quick and gave the Ravens too much time. But does this outweigh maybe some of the better wins that they've had earlier on in the season in Tennessee, and where I said on our show that I think it was a franchise-changing win? Does this kind of prove maybe that was a little bit too soon that I said that? You're on mute.
Goddamn technology. Let's go. Yes. I think it was premature because last week I think I said on this show that Cleveland was going to beat Baltimore and then win the division in the AFC North. I think I said that last week. So I got all the egg in my face for the Browns. It's just Cleveland, man. That city is so depressing because of its teams that it's just tradition there. They just know they're going to lose. It's going to take forever for them to win. LeBron was a bright spot there. Then LeBron left and came back, then left again. And the Browns, they're 9-3. Or are they not? Yeah, they're 9-3. 9-4, 9-3.
9-4 right now.
9-4. So they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be that wild card team. Depending on who they face, it's going to be scheme wise. And that's one thing about the playoffs. Hopefully you're paired up with a team that you can scheme around. But that game Monday night was the Browns scored too fast. They gave Lamar too much time, and both defenses didn't do their job. It was literally an arena football score. They're back and forth, plus the crap gate / shit gate, whatever you want to call. But it's you have to start thinking that, man, is Cleveland going to just be this? I've been alive on this planet for 30 some years, and Cleveland has what, one good year in my memory, and that was 2002. So that just tells you that this organization, that city, just suffers, and it's in their heads. It's all the mental mind. It's the streaks of the sports that we see, like in the Cleveland Indians, the Boston Red Sox, Chicago Cubs, the long deficits, the droughts that these teams don't win. Cleveland's in one of them, and it's going to be wild till they get out of it. But they have the talent on this team. They have the quarterback if he decides to throw a football correctly, besides knocking their players out while they're continuing their routes, like the Peyton Manning commercial at Allstate. But I don't know. It's just confusing, man. It's just one week they look like they went over the hump, and the next week they just get welcome back to reality moment. So it's tough to judge the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that I wouldn't like them in playoff matchups. I think if they play the Titans or Colts, they've proven that they can beat those teams. Now, maybe in the second time around, it's a little bit different. As we're recording this, we're seeing the rematch go a little bit differently in the Clemson Notre Dame game. Clemson's making Notre Dame look foolish for their undefeated record. But I do think, and I'll go to DJ since it's one of his teams. Do you fear that, as a Colts fan, do you think that the Browns could possibly upset the Colts in the playoffs with the way that their last game went and the way that they match up scheme wise?
Wow, I think the entire city of Cleveland's going to jump off a skyscraper the way we're talking about him today. So allow me to brighten this up a little bit. I mean, you lost to the Ravens with superhero Lamar X Factor 16 pounds lighter at the very last minute of the game. I mean, it's not too much to be ashamed of. You dropped 42 points and you were missing 3 of your starting secondary, including Denzel Ward. I mean, it's bound to happen. So I think it's a kind of a positive considering what the Ravens did to them in week 1 and what the Steelers did to them earlier. I talked about it when I didn't have the egg in my face and I picked the Ravens to win. That the reason that the Ravens are going to win is because the Browns haven't proven the ability to beat those two teams yet. And they really did beat them like 3 times over. Lamar and the Ravens just beat them 4 times over. So I look at it as a positive. Your biggest nemesis, arguably, in the league that you have trouble beating, and you lose by Justin Tucker kicking it with every might of his soul, and Lamar 15-pound lighter Lamar Jackson. Not many other teams can replicate that. So I'm looking at it as a positive. And to answer your question, I don't even think it'd be an upset if the Browns beat the Colts. I think they're one of those teams that could compete with just about anyone. Maybe not necessarily the Bills, because I think if that turns into a shootout, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs is going to take out Baker Mayfield in that case. They might have a shot in hell against the Chiefs, but I would not bet anything on that just because they could control the clock and Myles Garrett can get after the passer. But I think they're as good of a wildcard team as any. I mean, we talked about the NFC West being the best division. AFC North is right there with them. And the Browns are the second best team in that division by record. So if the Browns are in the NFC, they're probably leading most divisions because I think, 9-4, where the NFC has 3 10-3 teams. So I don't think there's much to be ashamed of here. The Browns, they could beat anyone. They could smoke the Titans. They could smoke the Colts. And if Philip Rivers decides to throw to the right color team that isn't colorblind, he could smoke them too. So I think it goes either way with them. They're not elite, but I don't think they're trash pandas at this point.
I'm glad you're seeing, DJ, what I've been seeing for years of Philip Rivers, that he doesn't know how to throw to his own color uniform.
Whoa. I have never defended Philip Rivers on this show. You take that back, young man.
You're right.
Nobody defends Philip Rivers. He's got 15 kids to back him up. Nobody needs to back him up anymore.
What he's done for the Indianapolis school system cannot be matched, though. He deserves Walter Payton Man of the Year for that alone.
That's true.
That's
true.
I'll go. I mean, Kelcey, what is your opinion of the Browns? I kind of land somewhere in between. Niko thinks that they're still the little brother and they can't get over the mental hump. DJ thinks that it was just a team that they struggled to beat anyways, but they showed a lot in a loss. There's no good losses, but maybe this one kind of counts as one. Where do you land on the Browns?
Well, I mean, Lamar, first of all, single-handedly took the Browns to the Super Bowl in that same game, so you definitely can't complain. But no, I mean, there's a lot to be said about the mentality in Cleveland. The last time they made the playoffs was 2002 as a wild card, where they, of course, got beat by 3 by the Steelers. Before that, you're looking at the early 90s. 94 was the last time they made it to the playoffs. So there's something to be said about the mentality there, but I do think to DJ's credit, what he's trying to say, about Cleveland, they're competitive. They look good. I think Bud Light just needs to make another, competition for if they wouldn't make it to the playoffs and get a win in the playoffs. We'll see Baker out here playing lights out from now on. I mean, he'll actually be able to throw the ball. The dude has one of the best throwing motions in the game. He just can't do it repeatedly. But when he's on fire, it's a lot like any streaky shooter in basketball. He can outgun most anybody in the NFL. So I, there's a lot of positives with Cleveland, but you do have to question that mentality on the back end. Like, you do have to question, how much does this weigh on you? And unfortunately for Baker, the one thing that's never really been one of his strong suits is mental toughness. He seems to fall to the mental toughness a lot.
He's pretty unlucky too, I would think, because that Rose Bowl game, I know that Georgia played a flawless game, but that was pretty lucky the way that one ended. He's always seems to be just that short on a lot of these big situations, but
second best, you might say.
Yeah, second best. He was the second best Heisman Trophy winner on the field that night. If only he would have had the bathroom break, maybe he would have been able to do something a little bit more and win that game. Now let's transition. I think, and we can bring up the Browns head coach. We're sitting here. We've played more games than there's games left. Where do we see the coach of the year falling? Because I think Kevin Stefanski's made a really good case for it with what he's been able to do for Cleveland. There's a few other guys that probably deserve that credit. I think Sean McDermott in Buffalo could possibly be up for it. Where do we think the coach of the year is going to end up? And I'll start with you, Jim, since your team is coached by one of the most hated coaches anyways. And even though he's one of the smartest, I don't think he's going to be winning it this year, unfortunately. Where do you think coach of the year is going?
Sean McDermott, Buffalo. It's just impressive how he's done with that Buffalo team. Cleveland has a good case for it, but Cleveland's dwindling down at the wrong time, and Buffalo is pushing into playoff gear. So it's going to be down in the next couple of weeks. And from a person who's watched Buffalo many times this year, especially they're our division rival, he deserves it more, and that city deserves it more. So they'll treat that like a Super Bowl championship if he gets the coach of the year. So enjoy it, Buffalo.
Niko, who do you think is going to win coach of the year? We actually haven't had this discussion yet. So where do you think that award is going to fall?
I mean, Sean McDermott is one of the obvious choices here. I think a sleeper 100% is Brian Flores, and they're down there in Miami. If the Dolphins are able to be the number 2 best team in that division and make the playoffs, I think it's hard to argue against what Brian Flores has done. That defense over there is one of the most underrated for the Dolphins, and they have a lot of good heart over there, man. They have shown a lot of good strides, and if they are able to squeeze into the playoffs with a rookie quarterback, I think it's hard to go against him. I think another person that could be there, Ron Rivera, is a sleeper. If the Washington football team win their division, yeah, they haven't had a good record, and they're in one of the shittier divisions in the league, but I think he could be there. Right now, I would give it to McDermott. But like I said, Cleveland, I need to see more from Cleveland. And if the Dolphins make the playoffs, I'm going to go Brian Flores. But as of right now, I'm going Sean McDermott. That's for sure as well.
I said when Brian Flores was hired, I thought he was the best hire out of that entire class. And he's proven it, because whatever Adam Gase was trying to do in Miami for the culture change wasn't working. And Brian Flores actually came in and made a culture change. And now we've seen what that's able to do. Niko and I talk about it a lot. I have some weird hatred for the Dolphins. I forgot about the 72 Dolphins, and I constantly tell everybody how overrated Tua is, but I wouldn't disagree if Brian Flores got the award. I think that he's done a great job. And looking back at the beginning of the season, I don't think any of us would have said the Dolphins were a surefire playoff team, wild card or otherwise. Kelcey, where do you think the coach of the year discussion should go?
I mean, you guys are giving me all my credit for calling Brian Flores at the beginning of the season. I'm probably one of the few people that actually thought that the Dolphins would be a playoff team. They have had the biggest turnaround of a defense. Last year's worst defense. This year's second best. They improved by giving up 12 less points a game, which is the most prolific change any defense has ever undergone, and that's a lot to do with Brian Flores' coaching and the deals they made in the offseason to get in defensive players. But this team is young, and they're competitive, and there's a fire lit under them, and Brian Flores is the guy leading the charge, and he's been my pick since day one of preseason when DJ and I did our preseason rankings and our predictions. I picked Brian Flores to be Coach of the Year. I thought they'd sneak into the playoffs in this, especially with this expanded wild card. And right now, they're everything I predicted right now with the Dolphins is coming true, except for Tua lasted one more game than I was expecting before his first injury. So that's the only exception, and they're doing it without a running back. I mean, you can't really say much else about that. Like, you can't run an offense without a running back, really, especially when you have game manager extraordinaire Tua running the show, and then Ryan Fitzpatrick, whether he's going to be magic or not, there's no telling. But yeah, no, I love Brian Flores for the Coach of the Year. He'll probably get shafted just because that's usually what happens to teams that don't win their division. But you know what? I do think he's probably the most deserving of it out of all the coaches right now.
A combination of an Alabama quarterback and a coach that was under Bill Belichick will produce winning, and that's because that's all those two programs know what to do, know how to do is win.
Oh yeah, they're like puzzle pieces. They fit together perfectly.
Other than where a lot of people thought we would get to with this season, since there was no bubble and nobody was sure how the protocols would be handled and everything like that. I think a lot of the conversation surrounding the beginning of the season in 2020 was what team was going to handle the protocols, outbreaks, and kind of the administrative stuff so that they could stay on the field. So I got a few questions that I'll throw your guys' way. What do you think? How do you think the NFL as a league handled the COVID protocols? And you can compare them to the other professional leagues or just talk about the NFL. But I'll start with Niko. What do you think the NFL did with COVID and the pandemic, and how do you think they were in relation to the other leagues?
I think overall, if you look at everything that's happened, I'm not going to compare it to the NHL, and I'm not going to compare it to the NBA because they're in the bubble and that's completely different. I think the best comparison here is to the MLB. If you look at how they monitored, I guess how the games went, they probably did a little bit better than the MLB, but the NFL did have that problem with Kendall Hinton and the Broncos where you could have moved games back, and they seemed like that the NFL has done a pretty good job, I think, with handling who has it and making sure that the right players out there like don't have COVID. But the way they've handled how the games or when the game should be played, I think is worse than the MLB. The MLB, it's a lot easier with the MLB, obviously, because it's series and you can move series around and you can play double headers and blah, blah, blah. But the NFL could have made it a little bit better with having another week at the end where maybe each team has 2 bye weeks or something. And that extra week, in case there's a team that misses, it could have been adjusted a little bit better. But knock on wood, hopefully this is the only time that this ever happens. And this time next year, this isn't a problem and there's no COVID and everything's back to normal. But the NFL has overall done better than what they did at the beginning, because at the beginning it was a shit show. The Titans had a problem, the Patriots had a problem, and they were really struggling trying to handle all that. But now they seem to have it under control of when there is a positive test and how to handle it now. So I do give them a lot more credit now, but they definitely could have prepared better at the beginning. That's for sure. I think the bubble, though, too, also is very, very difficult with the NFL. Playoffs, we may see it. I don't think we'll see it, but it's very difficult with that many players in a bubble. So it's completely different than NBA and NHL.
Yeah, it was a bad comparison. I should have mentioned the MLB instead. Kelcey, what did you think of the NFL and how they handled COVID and some of the outbreaks? It started off pretty rough. I'll agree with Niko there, but how do you think they finished out the season and got us to the point where we're at now?
I mean, yeah, you guys are exactly right. First of all, about the bubble, comparing it to the bubble, you talk about NBA, NHL, 25 traveling members basically for the team. Much easier to control than 85 to 90 traveling members for the NFL. So, you can't really compare to that. As much as I would love to, because I'd love to throw out, NBA didn't have any positive tests in the bubble, but, did it anyways. But no, like compared to the MLB, honestly, they did a fantastic job. NFL did a fantastic job compared to Major League Baseball. One, they didn't have a top 25 player completely just ignore COVID protocol and walk out of the team hotel during a lockdown and just walk back and then catch a flight back to New York and then email the manager, the GM, because he doesn't feel safe. They didn't have that. They didn't have 3 teams completely shut down for 2 weeks at a time. There's really, you look at it, there's 3 teams during the season that had issues in the NFL. And of those 3 teams, of those games that they played, I think only one of them got pushed back to a point of just like, really, guys, what are you doing? And that would be the Steelers Ravens. But, honestly, I think we've given them a lot of crap for it. But when you consider it's 90 plus team members of the team that they have to control, 3 teams out of 30 that, you have an issue with, I'll take those odds.
Yeah, I think that if you look at it just based on the entire league, it's three teams, even though they were probably blown way out of proportion, rightfully so with the climate and everything going on. But I do think that it was better than what you could have expected. DJ, where do you think that the NFL, how do you think they handled everything going on with this season? Do you think that they probably get a little bit less credit than they deserve, or do you think that maybe they should be held more accountable for how the beginning of the year went?
Kind of piggyback off of what Kelcey and Niko said. I think considering the circumstance, they did a pretty good job. I mean, there's only so much you could do when you're dealing with thousands of people across the country. You can't put a bracelet on and monitor everybody and keep them 100% safe. And you could catch COVID literally anywhere. The one thing I wish they would have changed was how they dealt with outbreaks. Like when we saw the outbreaks with the Titans and the Ravens, instead of flopping those schedules and bye weeks and destroying everything, they should have just called those basically losses. That sucks for you if you let 30 people catch COVID. And then if you have situations like the Broncos, those are the games you should have moved 1 or 2 days. I think they could have switched that up just a little bit. That'd be the only thing I'd really change. But other than that, you can't really complain. You have 32 teams, thousands of people, and you don't have really any games truly canceled, just postponed. Nothing like Kelcey said with MLB. And you're not comparing it to bubbles or like UFC where you have 13 athletes per event. So you really can't complain too much. But that'd be my only problem was how they handled the outbreaks.
Yeah, Jim, I'll go back. I'll go to you now. And as a Patriots fan, I'm not sure if you're going to give the league any credit. I know you don't like Goodell, but what do you think? What do you think the NFL did? How do you think that they handled everything going through 2020 and the pandemic?
For the amount of people that takes to operate a juggernaut that is the National Football League, and for the small amount of people that were affected with the virus, you have to give credit where credit's due. The NFL did a pretty good job. Yes, some of the games that they postponed do, I believe, have double standards. We did rant about that 2 weeks ago. But to compare it to the Major League Baseball, the NFL was never at a point or at any point of the season that was threatening to cancel the season. In baseball, we were 3 days into the season, and we had 4 teams have massive outbreaks in their facilities, and that threatened baseball. So you got to give credit to the NFL because they did the protocols. And a game where just a couple months ago we were saying, well, we can't play it because it's contact. You're going to have a lot of people on top of each other. It could be considered a super spreader. You got to give credit where credit's due. The NFL did a very good thing. But you also have to give props to the National Player Association. Those are the guys who agree to it. And yes, you do have some employees and members that do, discuss their frustration with the system. But we're week 15 of the NFL, and these experts in the NFL thought we were not even going to get to week 6. So I think you got to tip the hat off. But 2020 is not over. The season's not over. And we still got playoffs to play. And that's where the money's made in the NFL is the NFL playoffs. If they can get there and do it, it's hats off. But, right now I give them a heads up or a good go because they did very well. And they got the season going. That's a good thing.
Yeah, barring something crazy also, I mean, the MLB had a player in the World Series, the last game of the World Series, test positive, and they pulled a player. I mean, the NFL hasn't had that problem. I might be wrong. Maybe there's something behind the scenes, but that hasn't happened yet. And the MLB that looked absolutely terrible on them. The NFL hasn't had that problem either.
And then to let him go celebrate with the team afterwards,
even
though he had just tested positive 3 hours earlier.
I see both sides of that one.
Show.
Yeah, I see both sides of that argument, but that's an argument for a different show on a different day. This is a football show. So with that, I agree with what everybody else has said. I do think that the NFL deserves some credit for what they've done. I mean, hell, we've gotten 15 weeks of football. Nobody thought that. I do want postseason in both college and the NFL, and I'm going to continue. I'm going to try and speak it into existence. We're going to continue to have football, and we're going to finish these seasons. But real quick, before we move on and get into the pick'em, because we're coming up right about an hour. But I wanted to really quickly ask each of you, who was your team that handled the COVID protocols the best? And I'll go with Kelcey first. Who do you think? Who's your top team for the COVID protocols? Who do you think handled it best?
Is it biased to say the Cowboys did? I mean, I don't think there's been any issue whatsoever with COVID in the Cowboys. I think the only 2 positive tests, they got him out of the team, got him quarantined early in the week, and didn't see him until a week and a half later. I mean, really, honestly, though, if I could give it to anybody, there's 15 other teams I can give it to as well. So, really, it's been a fantastic job by most of the league.
Okay, I see the error in my question. So who's been the worst? Because you're right. There have been a lot of teams that have handled it way better than the others. Who was the worst? Who's the biggest offender of COVID?
In that case, I got to go Titans. Titans, to me, have been the biggest benefactor / culprit in the whole COVID. They are the team of COVID-19, if you will. They've had the most to deal with it, and they've not really done a great job with it.
Niko, who's your team that handled the protocols the worst?
I know some people will think the Broncos, but if we're being honest, the Broncos did something wrong, but they didn't have anything. The rest of the quarterbacks didn't test positive. So it's not like they were tested positive. They kept their distance, but they were in the same room. So it's not the Broncos. I think the winner here, there's not, I mean, it's hard to call it a winner, but there is a winner, I guess, and I think it's the Ravens. That whole shit show where it got moved back from Thanksgiving and then moved back again and then moved back again. And literally 40, like it was half the team was literally tested positive. I think they handled it the worst by far. They've had a few outbreaks here and there too. It's the Ravens have struggled the most, I think.
Yeah, Jim, I'll go to you next. Who gets your blue star for the biggest loser of COVID? Who's handled it the worst?
I agree with Kelcey. It's the Tennessee Titans, and they were pretty much awarded an extra couple of weeks to get ready for the season, and they didn't. And that's one thing about these protocols. You have teams that use it to their advantage. You can easily see in college, it's the same way. Oh, we're canceling this game postponement a week before a championship. You're doing that to rest your players mainly. But I have to say this. My MVP of the COVID protocol is the New York Jets, because they haven't showed up to win any games. So their quarantine is top notch. So New York Jets, you win the award for the best quarantine team in 2020.
You can't catch COVID if you don't celebrate touchdowns. So that's why they only score 3 points a game. There you go. DJ, who's your blue ribbon loser for the COVID protocols? Who's the worst team in your opinion?
I'm going to go with the Titans as well, too, because not only were they the first team to do it, they did it right after the season started. The protocols weren't in place, and you fucked up that quickly. At least for the Ravens, that you could say they got complacent and then just got lazy and screwed up late. The Titans screwed up as soon as the rules were laid out. Like, you didn't even pretend to follow them off the top. And I'm convinced they weaponized COVID, because they play the Ravens. A week later, the Ravens have problems with COVID. They play the Colts. A week later, the Colts have problems with COVID. Watch the Browns get COVID now. Watch the Jaguars get COVID. I think that the Titans weaponize COVID. They're onto something. They're the COVID-19 team of the league, guaranteed.
That would be such a Belichick disciple move to do, is figure out how to weaponize a virus against the other teams and make sure that nobody can show up play against you. Vrabel might have figured out a way to do that.
Have you seen the look on Mike Vrabel's face too? He's the type of guy that keep COVID on some sweaty underwear or something and give him to the teams that he plays against. He's a dirty guy. You can tell by
COVID gate.
Yeah, COVID gate in Tennessee. I don't know. But then he's also not shaking hands with people because he didn't shake Harbaugh's hand. So maybe he's not trying to spread it. Maybe.
Well, I mean,
that was Harbaugh's fault. That was Harbaugh's fault too. Vrabel went in for the handshake. It wasn't Vrabel's fault.
Vrabel's also kind of a huge giant douche. So I wouldn't want to shake his hand either.
He's good tight end, but yeah, he was a douche.
He was a linebacker.
Well, he was tight end in the Super Bowl.
A better tight end than linebacker.
He had to play freaking tight end in the Super Bowl because the Patriots didn't have tight ends that time.
Which one was that?
Against Philly.
2002.
Philly.
Oh.
Philly and Jacksonville. They had to play him at tight end because 2 of our tight ends were hurt during the Super Bowl.
Look at that. For as irrelevant as the Patriots are, Jim's got us talking about the Patriots dynasty again.
Yeah, because you compared Bill Belichick to Mike Vrabel, and freaking
just because he's a
COVID
disciple, just because he's a disciple. That's all I'm saying.
We live
You saw Jim's face just light up when the moment somebody said Belichick and it wasn't referring immediately to the Patriots.
Yeah, I was like, hey.
Like, hey, yes, I can get him in here right now.
You guys
Brady?
did.
Where?
You guys did pay a film crew to. Boy.
Memories.
We're throwing barbs back and forth, and it's going to continue because now we're going to get into the pick'em. But we're going to take a quick break, listen to our partners, Fanatics. It might be a little bit too late to get it before Christmas, but you can always brighten up somebody's day no matter what. Go to the Fanatics link in all of our bios, all of our link trees, and go get yourself some merch. But we'll go ahead and hear from them and some of the other shows on the network. You're listening to NFL Unhinged. What's up, bench warmers of the Unhinged Sports Network? We're here to talk to you today about Fanatics because I mentioned it in the episode that I believe is out by now that you're listening to this, but I got a nice Bengals shirt. I got the 3/4 with the burrow on the back and the Tommy Hilfiger sweatshirt. So, I mean, it's quality stuff, too. And I know Nico's been hounding that website ever since we got the link, too.
I know. I'm a closet Titans fan, so I got myself a Derrick Henry jersey just because, you know what I mean? I mean, there's so many great deals on there.
Yeah.
If you use our link through the link tree as well, man, you can click on the link and buy whatever through that time. You can buy basketball stuff, hockey stuff, football stuff, baseball stuff, NASCAR, soccer. I mean, really, there's so many great things on there, man.
All officially licensed.
All officially licensed stuff, man. There's so much good stuff, and you can buy whatever. And it's that time of the year. Go get yourself your parents or your friends some jerseys or some stuff, whatever it may be. They have shooter sleeves, basketball shooter sleeves that I got too. So
coasters. I've seen coasters, a speaker. Possibly got somebody a Bluetooth speaker that's their favorite team. So there you go. Or you could be your own Santa. You can get a gift for somebody else, the sports fan in your life. But it doesn't have to be just football or basketball. There's everything that you could possibly think of on there. So go hit the link in our link tree to Fanatics. Help out the Unhinged Sports Network and help out the far end of the bench as well. Thanks, guys. Welcome back to NFL Unhinged. Hope you're having a good Sunday morning. Jimmy Pilato with the crew here. Jim Renee, JDash, the High-Low Sports guys, DJ and Kelcey, my co-host, Nico Bryant. Zach Coblin couldn't join us today, but he does have his picks in, so we'll still be hearing from him, and his record will continue to move as this Pickem is really starting to get competitive. It's a personal thing now. Everybody loves throwing barbs back and forth at each other. Nico called himself the god of the Pick'em. I don't want to screw it up again. Okay,
that was the first week. Yeah,
Nico was the god of the Pick'em.
Now I am in the cellar. I suck at these now. I'm terrible now.
And now we have Kelcey with his island making a huge comeback. Was the bottom of the Pick'em. Now he's working his way towards the top. Hasn't overtaken the top spot yet, but he's had a few really good weeks in a row. So Kels, how are you feeling now moving forward in this thing?
Hey, you always talk about the tortoise versus the hare, right? Nico over there's the hare, definitely fell off real quick. I'm the tortoise. Look at me. Fit the tortoise description, big, bold, and in the way. Just give me a chance. All I need is all season.
Here we go.
You can have your island. I'll just shine my podcast of the year belt.
Ooh, there we go.
I don't happen to see anything in the background. I don't see any belts.
So, don't worry. It's
on for being the number one right now.
Yeah, not so much. When in the first 2 weeks I had like 7 island picks where I was trying to be cute. It was bound to happen, but feeling good. The weather's nice up here at the top of the scoreboard. I can't complain.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's get into it. I think we're going to start with one of the better matchups, especially this late into the season. This has the possibility of being game of the year. We can have that debate. The New Orleans Saints are hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. It was going to be the two tops of each conference, but New Orleans lost, and now I think they've lost that spot to the Packers. But the Chiefs, obviously a high-powered offense. The Saints have a really good defense with Quan Alexander, Demario Davis. DJ, we'll start with you since you're in first place. What do you think is going to be the story with this Kansas City-New Orleans game?
So initially going into this week when I was looking at it, I picked the Saints to win because Drew Brees is coming back. They look good, really good defense. They had a hiccup against the Eagles. Then the Saints put Mike Thomas on IR the rest of the way. And without Drew Brees' number one target, I can't quite give him the edge over the Chiefs. So I'm picking the Chiefs, but I think it's going to be really close considering recently the Chiefs in the red zone have struggled to score touchdowns. They basically all their touchdowns are 45 yards plus because they're ridiculously faster than everybody. But once they get into the red zone, they tend to slow down and teams can stop them. And the Saints defense is no joke. But without Mike Thomas, I think that's going to leave a lot of third down conversions on the table for the Saints. So I'm going to take the Chiefs in a close one. But if Mike Thomas was playing, I was prepared to give it to the Saints with Drew Brees coming back.
Yeah, Drew Brees finally getting over.
It's going to be an exciting game. I think it's going to be the best game of the week, but best game of the year, you can't say that right now because they haven't played the game yet. But right now, I got the Chiefs winning, let's say 34-27 type of game.
Pretty high-scoring matchup for a Sunday night. Finish off the Sunday slated games. I wish I could tell you that Zach of the Gridiron Gallery podcast was going to be the lone man on the island, but if I was going to do that, I'd be screwing him over and lying. He also picked the Chiefs, so that's a clean sweep for everybody on the show. Kansas City, just too much for New Orleans where they are at this point in the season, and I don't disagree with it. Next matchup that we're going to talk about, DJ's Colts trying to hold on to some sort of a lead or at least a tie with the Tennessee Titans in the AFC South. And they're going into Houston to take on just a defeated team with a defeated quarterback in Deshaun Watson. Hopefully, I mean, I mentioned it, he could possibly be wasted out there in Houston on our show. Hopefully that doesn't happen. They get their stuff together because I think they'd be a lot of fun to watch. But DJ, since it's your team, I'll let you have the floor first. What do you think of this matchup with your Colts going into Houston?
Whoever did the scheduling for the Colts is kind of an asshole because this is the second division opponent they've had in like a 3-week span. They played the Titans 2 times in 3 weeks, now the Texans 2 times in 3 weeks. So that's kind of a dick move when you have to deal with rivalry teams. But that being said, like you mentioned, Deshaun's been getting assaulted this year. He's been great, but the Texans have been getting him killed. A lot of his receivers are out. For the Colts, DeForest Buckner's questionable, so if he doesn't play, I think it's really close. But the Colts are playing for a playoff spot where the Texans are really, they should just be trying to keep Deshaun Watson alive for the future. So I'll take the Colts, but if DeForest doesn't play, it's going to be a lot closer than it should be, and that leaves the door open for Deshaun Watson to do what Deshaun Watson does.
I truly think that if he just had a little bit of help and didn't have Bill O'Brien as his head coach and GM, we would be talking about Deshaun Watson in a totally different light in the NFL. Unfortunately, that's not how it's happened. Jim, I'm going to go to you next. I mentioned it might be like, why would the Texans continue to play Deshaun Watson? Maybe it'd be best just to sit him down because then you know he's going to finish the season healthy. What do you think about this matchup with the Colts? Their quarterback situation, I wouldn't say is a lot better, but it is definitely better than what the Texans situation is as a whole right now. So what do you think about this matchup?
For me, I think the Colts have a chance to put the Texans to bed. And for Deshaun Watson, everyone knows he's a great quarterback. He's good. He's talented. Is he as good as Patrick Mahomes, like you guys said on your other show there, Jimmy?
I say it. I'm not going to put Niko in that. I say it, and I'll stand by it.
Okay. But yeah, the Texans are depleted. They're defeated. And the only good games they've, actually did this season were against terrible teams like the Jaguars. So it's what Phillip Rivers shows up. Is it the one that decides to give out free turnovers to everybody that walks by him, or is it the one that's going to throw for 4 touchdowns and 400 yards? The Houston Texans defense, in my opinion, has had some games where they shut down teams, and they have games where they just decide to not cover anybody and let people walk in the end zone wide open. This is one of those games of who shows up, who wants to play. And for the instance for Houston, yeah, it's just end of the year. It's going to be, do we want to win this? Can it be spoilers? That's what the Texans are wanting to be right now, is just be spoilers. But if the Colts really want to win this division, they have to win this game. And hopefully the Titans start slipping up here in the last couple of weeks. But if it comes to me, I hate both teams with a passion. Give me the Colts by field goal.
Rodrigo Blankenship's going to be the hero of the weekend. Jim's calling it right now. The rec specs and all, Georgia Bulldog, former Georgia Bulldog, great. I'll go to Niko next. In this matchup, who do you like more at this point in the season? Because I know you don't like Phillip Rivers, but I know you're also, you know the game well enough to see that the Texans are not good and are not going to be good anytime soon. So what do you think about this matchup?
No, my biggest downfall, I have picked against the Colts, I'm pretty sure, the last 6 weeks. Like, I'm pretty sure I've picked against them every single time on this, and they have killed me. Oh my God, have they killed me. that's just because of my hatred for Philip Rivers, and I don't think he's it there in Indianapolis. But obviously, their running game is just fantastic. Jonathan Taylor is a stud. Nyheim Hines as well. Man, they have so many great weapons on the offensive end. It's just a shame that Philip Rivers is the head of it. Their defense is very underrated as well. Darius Leonard, absolute stud. They have some good talent over there too. The Texans, I feel bad. Deshaun Watson has talent. He just deserves better. It's a bad scenario down there. I would not be surprised if the Texans pull off the upset, though. I'll be honest with you. I would not be surprised just because the talent. Deshaun Watson is due for a game where he carries a team. He's due for one of those games where he leads a team to victory that they probably had no shot in winning. And I think this is one of those cases. But I don't think this is one of those cases, but this could be a very good possibility. But I'm going to go with the Colts because my record is not where I want it to be, and the Colts have been a thorn in my side. So I'm going with the Colts.
If it makes you feel any better, they run a 2-quarterback system because Jacoby Brissett gets in there a lot. So I mean, he takes snaps from Philip Rivers. Let that ease your hatred a bit.
That's true. That's true.
When Philip Rivers is tired or he doesn't want to run a quarterback sneak or can't throw it more than 35 yards, they put Jacoby Brissett in. Kelcey, I'm going to go to you next, but before I do, I'm going to let you know that Zach also picked the Colts. So if you want Kelcey Island to be a thing, this is an opportunity that you have. And you know what? For as bad as the Texans are, why not? Why couldn't this be an upset, especially at home? So
and Deshaun, you trust.
I'll go with you. What do you think? You're on mute.
All right. Anyways,
someone else did it.
Yeah, no, don't worry. Let me go ahead and say, this game it's a tough one to choose. The Texans, when they're not playing in Houston against the Colts, are 10,000 times better than when they're playing in Houston against the Colts. That's just a fact of how they play for some reason. And what scares me about this, if I were to pick the Colts, DeForest Buckner did not practice, is questionable for the game, likely won't play. He was a big difference maker in their last game. If I'm not mistaken, he caused the fumble that led to the turnaround in the game against the Texans the last time. So, with that said, also Anthony Costanzo is injured. He's questionable. So I do think I gotta go for the upset here. I think Deshaun decides to pull something out, and DJ might come and kill me by the end of this podcast for this pick. But I do think the Texans can pull this one out. Philip Rivers hasn't made a mistake recently, and that scares the living hell out of me. He is due for big time mistakes, and it scares me. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is the week Deshaun Watson and the Texans can pull it out.
As a kid growing up in Denver, I've seen Philip Rivers blow plenty of games that he shouldn't have lost. And this definitely feels like one of those times. I don't know. But I should also be a car salesman because I sold you into that island pick, I feel like. I don't know if that's what you were thinking about first.
I've been looking at the IR for this game for all week, just kind of watching to see if DeForest Buckner was going to come play and whether Costanzo was whether he was participant in practice yesterday, because that's been the two question marks. Do you have your career left tackle, and do you have your stalwart defensive tackle? I mean, can you have those two guys against Deshaun Watson, who is very, very known for rolling, busting through the pocket, especially straight up the middle, getting his 12 yards and getting down? The dude's a stud at that. And on offense, you don't want to have your career left tackle be missing, and you have to slide Quentin Nelson over. That's a terrifying fact because Quentin Nelson does a perfect job as a guard. Don't move him. Needing a left tackle next to him is kind of scary, though.
Yeah, I can see where the hesitation comes in with them. That's not. I don't disagree with that. I should mention that we aren't going to pick the Saturday games because we're recording right now during the Bronco game. Nico, you want to give the people an update where we're at?
I'd rather not.
Okay.
No. Go ahead.
The Bills just scored 2 touchdowns in 17 seconds, so I'm just gonna let that happen. And
so it's
you guys can probably guess what the score is. It's pretty bad. I'm not gonna say the live score because you'll already know what the score is when you guys hear us.
All right, so we're not gonna get a score update. I figured that could be the case in this matchup. Moving forward with the Pick'em. We got the Lions.
And also, it's not like I picked the Broncos. I picked the Bills on our show. So, I know it doesn't count for the NFL Unhinged show, but I'm not stupid. I knew the Bills were going to win this game.
No, I didn't. I wasn't saying that. I wasn't sure if the Broncos were pulling off the upset or not. I wasn't sure. Moving forward with the Pick'em, next game we have the Lions and the Titans. And it's a little bit more important, obviously, for one team. But if you're the Lions, why not play spoiler? If you're Matt Stafford, I think that he might be able to get out of Detroit. Why not put on a good performance? So this is another game where I don't know. I could see this one going either way, especially with how the Titans have played. But I'll go to Jim first. What do you think in this Lions and Titans matchup?
We have to break this game down. Even though as much as I hate the Titans, the Lions are going to Lions. And I'm not going to break down every single aspect of this competition game. The Lions are going to Lions. That's evident. Titans win. Big. Henry, and Henry.
All right. I mean, I'm just saying they have been shut down, and Derrick Henry has been shut down within a reasonable amount of time. I don't think that the Lions are as good as the Browns, but I mean, they fall asleep at some points. I'm just saying. Kelcey, you're next. What do you think about this one?
I mean, I wish I could be like, oh, Jim, you're so wrong. No, it's the Lions. Yeah, at the end of the day, I think they had 30-something transactions this week because of injury, COVIDs, you name it. That's a lot of moving pieces. And when you consider like Vaitai is one of the guys that's not going to be there, you're still Galladay is. Will he play? Will he not? Will he be healthy? Will he even have anybody throwing him the ball? Yeah, it's too many question marks for Detroit, and they still love Adrian Peterson too much. I still don't get it. Whether DeAndre Swift will be back, I don't know. But yeah, just give me the Titans. Give me Derrick Henry running the ball up the middle 35 times. I'll take that any day of the week.
Shout out, is it Tiamu that just got signed? Did he get signed by Detroit? He is the one that just got picked up by Detroit, right?
Yeah, Battlehawks.
Yes.
Yeah, the Battlehawks quarterback. He was a lot of fun to watch in the XFL. So maybe that would be fun if he's able to get in. DJ, I'm going you next. Are you going to be able to pick an upset in this one, or are you going to go with the Titans, especially at home?
Yeah, especially with Stafford hurt, there's almost zero chance. My only hope is that Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill don't go too ballistic, since I'm dealing with them both in fantasy this week. So please just let somebody else score all the touchdowns. Lions, if you could, that'd be great. But give me the Titans comfortably.
Nico, I probably know who you're going to pick because we mention it all the time how much we like the Titans. So let's go ahead. Let's hear your reason why you're going with the boys.
Well, it's very simple. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. Derrick Henry won't be. I mean, the Lions won't be able to stop Derrick Henry. But I will say a hot take here right now. I think Matthew Stafford could find himself in Tennessee next year. I think the Titans could be a team in the looks, possibly Matt Stafford. Stafford is probably on the way out over there in Detroit. The Lions are really, really good. They have a lot of good weapons on the offensive end. And Matt Stafford, we saw what he had with weapons with Calvin Johnson. So who knows? With that Tennessee offense, he could be very, very good in Tennessee two-tone blue. So I could see that very well happening. Just on the lookout for that in the offseason. But with that being said, the Lions are the Lions. They got their one win when they fired their head coach, and now they're not going to get anything else the rest of the season. So I'm going Titans here.
I mean, I'll let the rest of the group respond to that too. I could see it maybe being like a Mariota situation. If Stafford goes to Tennessee, he's going to be there to back up Tannehill. They put too much money into Tannehill, and I think that he hasn't played his way out of the starting spot. So does anybody else see the possibility of Stafford going to Tennessee? Who else thinks that this is a possibility?
Nope.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, look, it wouldn't surprise me that Detroit, who has a history of making terrible moves, decides, hey, let's trade an aging Stafford to Tennessee for Ryan Tannehill's 1 year left on his contract, and we'll restart with a brand new regime and a new quarterback in a year, and we'll call it swell and get rid of Matt Stafford because they don't let career guys with the Lions finish their careers in Detroit unless they retire early.
So you're thinking they're going to go just a straight quarterback for quarterback swap?
It'd be something stupid like that. Honestly, it's the Lions we're talking about. They are the worst run front office in the league at this point, in my opinion.
If the Titans don't make noise in the playoffs, I mean, if they do make a deep run with Tannehill at the helm, then it probably won't happen. But if they are a first-round exit, they get upset by a Browns team when they're at home or whatever it may be, then I do think they probably could see other options at quarterback, especially Stafford, who's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion. He just has had a really, really bad rap in Detroit.
See, I just don't think that. I mean, Tannehill's been throwing for 350-plus yards a game. He's been playing any of the games that they've lost. It hasn't been on Tannehill. That's my only thing why I'm not sure if they want to be able to move on from him, especially
landing spots for Stafford. My opinion, it's going to be Jacksonville, New England, Possibly teams that are looking for, even the Jets looking for a veteran.
Maybe
So-
San Francisco too in there.
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
And another one, Minnesota.
What about Washington? Because Washington's going to need a quarterback.
Probably, yeah. Stafford has a lot. If he's going to leave Detroit, he's going to have a lot of options.
Can I not see
Indianapolis, I mean, they
Stafford
finally have a quarterback who can see colors. That could help.
That's true.
Good point.
But Indianapolis is going to pick up Jameis. We all know that already.
Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. What did I ever do to you? We've had such a good rapport, and then you have to spit that venom.
Well, because you said that the Bengals were the reason you didn't have an even better week. So I was still
because I picked them.
responding
No,
to
I
that.
said it was directly your fault because I picked them for you because you were gone. Like
Okay.
this was you, not your team. This was all on you.
Okay, fine. I'll take it back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I put that out there, and I feel bad for it now. You made me feel bad. Thanks.
I'm gonna go suit up for the Colts so this doesn't happen. Hold my beer, guys. I can't let them sign Jameis.
All right, and Zach also has the Titans, so another clean sweep. There's, other than a few games, it's really pretty evident who should win these games. On our show for the next matchup, I was talking about it being one of the better rivalries of the 90s, especially the 49ers Cowboys. You can go all the way back to the early Joe Montana days with Dwight Clark and the catch. These two teams have played in some epic games. This is probably not going to be one of those matchups. Sorry, Kelcey, but the Cowboys are not even a shadow of what they were back then, and neither are the 49ers with as many injuries as they have. But I'll go with you first since it's your team. Who do you have in this matchup, the 49ers or the Cowboys?
Can I just pick that they don't play this game at all? Is that an option? Can COVID hit and finally, tear a game completely apart? I think you just disrespected a shadow by saying the Cowboys aren't even a shadow of their own selves. They are nothing close to what they used to be. There's nobody out here that's trying to save a game for the Cowboys. Andy Dalton's doing what Red Noodle Arm Rocket can do, and it's not even enough. Honestly, Nick Mullins is playing out of his mind, and I honestly just choked on my words saying that because Nick Mullins playing out of his mind, it hurts to say. But yeah, now the Kendrick Bourne is out there. He's going to increase his usage again. They're getting healthy at the right time. The Niners are. It's not going to be perfect by any means, but this is going to be like a 28-10 win, and the Niners are going to pull it off just because there's not really much firepower coming out of Dallas.
I could see that, and it's definitely. I wish it was like it used to be back in the 90s when these two were the two of the top teams in the league. DJ, I'm going to you next. 49ers Cowboys. Who do you have in that matchup?
Yeah, I'm just going to take the 49ers. Raheem, both teams are kind of beat up. Both teams are pretty much out of it, but I'll take Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson. Just they'll run all over the Cowboys defense, considering the Cowboys defense hasn't shown up for the most part of the season. And Mike McCarthy's still the coach of the Cowboys, and I refuse to pick them.
Jim, I'm going to go you next. Give us your opinion on this one, and we'll see how it matches up with everybody else.
The game is in San Francisco, right? Or is it
Arizona?
It's in Arizona. Okay, so technically it's home field. Give me San Francisco. I think San Francisco has enough to beat Cowboys, and you don't know what the Cowboys are going to do. And especially what happened last week. Like, hello, where did that come from? So, but the Cowboys are very inconsistent, and if they didn't play in the NFC East, they will be already mathematically eliminated for the postseason. So, yeah, give me the San Francisco 49ers.
And actually, the game's in Dallas, by the way.
Oh, okay. Then give me the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, it's the house that T.O. built.
Oh boy, that's bad memories. I don't like T.O. memories. He was on the Bengals for a season. Okay. Niko, what do you see in this matchup? I know.
I guess I'll be on my island with the Cowboys again. I'll pick the Cowboys. I'll be the one out. No Fred Warner.
Don't do it. Don't.
I hate myself for doing it.
It's a trap.
No George Kittle either. No Kwan Williams at corner. I mean, there's this is. Do I trust Nick Mullins? No. Do I trust Andy Dalton? Hell no. I don't trust either of these teams, but considering I trust Zeke more than I trust Mostert, and I'll die on that because he's just been undervalued and underused. So I'm going to go the Cowboys here. The weapons, and no Deebo Samuel either. The Cowboys have the weapons. It's whether or not Andy Dalton can get the ball to them is the problem. Can he get the ball out to CeeDee Lamb? Can he get the ball out to Mari Cooper? Can he can he just turn around and hand the ball off to Zeke Elliott? I guess that'll be remain to see. For that reason, it's both these teams this would be a handedly 49ers win if they're at full strength. But I think the injuries, no Deebo Samuel, is actually, I think, pretty massive. Deebo Samuel has been a really, really good underrated receiver for the 49ers recently. Having him out, I think, hurts a lot. For that matter, I'm probably going to regret this, but I'm picking the Cowboys. God damn it, I just did it. I'm going to regret the fuck out of that.
I'm going to give you a chance to fix your pick because I'd give you a heads up. Zeke did not practice on Friday, and he's not practiced all week.
Okay, then I'll still pick the Cowboys because it's CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. I'll be the dumbass of the week, and I'll pick the Cowboys. And if it works out, it works out for me. But I don't know.
I tried to help him as a much maligned Cowboys fan. I tried to help any soul that picks them.
Niko is
Nick
on
Mullins
an island.
Versus Andy Dalton. It's Nick Mullins versus Andy Dalton. Who the hell's gonna watch that?
Niko is on an island because Zach did pick the 49ers as well. So Niko is the sole pick for the Cowboys in that matchup.
Okay.
All right. And we have Zach Kyleman also picking the 49ers. So that's a clean sweep for them. Patriots and Dolphins, the next matchup. Sorry, Jim. We're going to have to talk about them. But is it time to move on from Cam first? I'll pose that question. Yes. Well, who do you want to see? Do you want to see Stidham? You want to see somebody else they pick up off the street? Or does it matter at this point?
Come this way, Matthew Stafford. Come this way, Aaron Rodgers, if you're still pissed with the organization in Green Bay. Come this way, anybody. You know who's more successful as a quarterback right now? A Geo Metro. Yes, that's basically the description of Cam Newton. The guy can't throw a basic screen route. The guy can't throw a slant route. The guy, okay, he can run and he can dance if he scores a touchdown. Cam Newton is gone. He hit the Cam Newton that we knew from Carolina days, where he was all the jazz, but when he couldn't pick up a freaking fumble in the Super Bowl, his stock just fell completely down. Niko should know that very well. That's where I lost all the respect from Cam. And when Cam signed with the New England Patriots this year, I was like, okay, we may not suck that bad. Jesus Christ, I'd rather have Mike Glennon as the quarterback for the Patriots. This team is 1 week they're good. They kicked that freaking Chargers' butt 45-0. And I said, I think on your show the other week, like, I can't predict this team. 1 minute they get their butts handed to them, and the next minute they're whipping everyone's ass, and they were kind of backing themselves into the postseason. Thank God freaking the Rams happened. And hopefully Miami ends our misery. And for the Patriots organization, this is your draft order. Quarterback, 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 kicker, quarterback, wide receiver. And that's it. Get as many quarterbacks in there to, change the position. It's been a very frustrating season. It has. And Cam Newton, this is not 2015 anymore. You're not dabbing. You're not super Cam anymore. You're highly, I can't do my rant like I did on Matt McGloin. You're not a trash can. You're above a trash can. You're highly better than a Geo Metro when it was debuted back in the 1970s. So, yes, Cam Newton, get out of New England. So, as you could tell about my anger and frustration, Tua, end our misery. Please, end it. Get it over with. It's now basketball season in Boston, and we're already in mid-season form talking about the Celtics. But anyways, give me the freaking Dolphins in this game. End our misery.
Welcome to the life of every other sports fan ever. You have to deal with some disappointment during football season.
Yeah.
These are real authentic tears for you. We're shedding right now. Like, these are real.
Oh, sorry.
You see this?
Can you hear the 1,000-string band orchestra behind me?
It's the world's smallest violin as well.
Yeah. Is it the same, Kelcey and DJ? Is it the same authentic tears as your awards from yesterday?
Hey, I
What's other people's opinions? Lions
I cried
don't
some
care about
great
the opinions
alligator
of sheep.
tears yesterday, okay? There were some massive alligator tears coming out of my eyes.
Well.
All right, Zach. I'll just mention Zach also picked the Dolphins in this game. I highly doubt we're going to see an upset just because it's the Patriots, and everybody would rather see the Patriots lose than win. Besides Jim, obviously, but Niko, I'll go to you because I know that you hate the Patriots. So what do you see happening in this one?
See, I remember Cam Newton only as a Super Bowl 50. I don't even remember anything he'd done. That MVP season could have gone to other people. Cam was blessed with great talent on the defensive end or on the offensive side of the ball during a Super Bowl run. But Von Miller ruined that man's career. Von Miller ended that career. Malik Jackson, all those studs in that 2015 Denver Broncos defense ended that man's career. DeMarcus Ware too, man. There's so many great studs on that Broncos defense. Cam Newton has never been the same, and he never will be the same. This is another matchup of Belichick against one of his proteges, Brian Flores, and we know the history. Sometimes it doesn't always go the way of the proteges, so that makes me a little bit hesitant. But considering Tua knows how to win football games, unlike many quarterbacks the Dolphins have had in recent history, not overall history, but recent history, he knows how to win football games. And because of that combo of him and Flores and that defense, I don't see the Patriots putting up more than 7 points. They put up only 3 points against some of these teams. I mean, like they don't put more than 7 points. I'm picking the Dolphins here big, and the Dolphins will solidify themselves as a potential wild card spot.
I think they might clinch a postseason berth.
Yeah, if
I don't know about.
I think they're one of the teams that is eligible to clinch a position this week.
If they win, they'll clinch at least a wild card, and it's still possible that they win the division if the Bills fall apart for the last 2 weeks. But it's not happening, right, Nico?
Yeah, no, it's not happening. The Dolphins will make the playoffs though, and that'll be fun to see. See Tua in the playoffs again. We missed out on it last year, but now we get to see, or missed out on Tua being in prime time slot, and now we get to see it again this year. So I'm excited to watch it. So Dolphins make the playoffs. I'm picking Dolphins here big.
Hey Kelcey, are you excited to watch former Alabama great Tua Tagovailoa as a Auburn fan? Are you excited for him to be back in prime time? How do you feel about this one?
Look, all right. First of all, Tua, congratulations for coming back from the hip injury. It's fantastic. You're still a game manager. Don't get it twisted. Stop trying to be a superhero. You're not a superhero. You're just a game manager. It's like every other quarterback to come out of the state of Alabama and come out of that program. I refuse to say their name right now just because, fuck them. Look, this game kind of messes with me, though, because I want to root for Cam. I love Cam. I love everything about him. And I still think, despite Jim's very adamant that they refuse to make it to the playoffs, I think Bill Belichick's pride makes him want to make the playoffs.
Oh, Jesus.
But with that said, I said Brian Flores is coach of the year earlier, so give me the Dolphins.
Yay.
I still hate Tua, though. Doesn't change.
A little Auburn versus Alabama matchup.
Yeah, there were Auburn versus Alabama, and two of the faces of that rivalry, because Alabama fans hate Cam Newton more than anything, and I'm sure that Auburn fans don't have fond memories of Tua. I mean,
honestly, we beat Tua twice, so I can't really say anything. Alabama never beat Cam, and I can make this easier on myself by saying Noah Igbenogany on the Dolphins defense is the saving grace for me, because he's done more against Alabama than Tua did against Auburn. So,
DJ, you're the last one to pick for this game. Who do you have, Dolphins or the Patriots?
Gonna have to grab my boat shoes, so I'm going on the island on this one. I'm gonna take the Patriots because I think Bill Belichick against rookie quarterbacks is still a thing. Tua's very good game manager, but he's a little bit limited. And Brian Flores, he is outstanding potential coach of the year, but he is still the learner. Bill Belichick is still considered the master. And it'd be typical Patriots to not get out of their misery quite yet. So I think they'll take pride in ruining somebody else in the division's chance at a potential wild card berth. It'll be ugly, and if Cam would shave the pseudo-wudo whomping willow thing off his head, he'd probably be able to throw the ball a little bit better and run a little bit quicker. But I'm going to say it's a close one, 17-14. It makes no sense how the Patriots win. It's like when they beat the Cardinals. It's like, how in the hell did this happen? But I'll take the Patriots in a close, terrible, ugly, stupid game.
It's not outside of the realm of possibility. Belichick loves beating up on his former coaches. He doesn't relinquish anything. And I agree with Kelcey. I don't think that he wants a higher playoff or a higher draft pick. He'd much rather be trying to work towards the playoffs than build for the future. But it's tough to go with the Patriots with the way the Dolphins have been playing.
I don't think there's much difference between where they finish if they win out or if they lose out. I mean, I feel like Bill Belichick, he's going to be in the middle of the pack in the draft anyways. He's like, you know what? I got my plan anyways. I'm good.
Well, don't worry about it.
He's got his dog ready to make all the picks for him.
Yeah, true. Don't worry about it because the Patriots don't pick in the first round. They trade away the picks all the time. So who cares?
They're just going to sign Philip Rivers in the offseason. They'll be good at quarterback. They'll be fine.
There we go.
They'll sign the kid over at Central Park, just running routes randomly. He'll be the next big thing.
The Buccaneers will release Tom Brady out of rage because Bruce Arians and him can't get along, and then he'll go back to Tampa Bay. Or he'll go.
I have no idea.
And now we're moving on to probably it's going to be my least favorite matchup of the weekend. Thankfully, Niko and I are recording our episode during this game, so I won't have to watch the slaughter firsthand. But the Bengals and Steelers, for whatever reason, are playing in the Monday night slot on ESPN in Cincinnati. I believe, in Cincinnati. I'll just go ahead and take my lashings on this one because I can't imagine any of you guys are going to be too nice to the Bengals, especially after that egg they laid last weekend against the Cowboys. Niko, I'll start with you because I know that you've been giving me shit quite a bit outside of the show, so I'll go ahead and let you pile on air.
Yeah, it's going to be a sad 2 weeks in Cincinnati. Yeah, Cincinnati. I mean, the state of Ohio kind of struggles as it is, unless you're in Columbus with the Ohio State. But the state of Cincinnati is in trouble. Cleveland is a shithole. Cincinnati is struggling mightily. And how bad is it going to be when Andy Dalton went into Cincinnati, beat the Bengals, and now you play the rivals and the Steelers whoop your ass on prime time? That's even going to add salt to the wound. Steelers here big. Steelers get back on track. I don't care how bad the Steelers have been struggling. They're going to whoop the shit out of Zach Taylor. And hopefully, Jimmy, for your sake, this is the game that gets Zach Taylor fired and the Steelers just absolutely pour it on this team.
It would be, I wouldn't mind Zach Taylor getting fired and maybe we sneak in and steal the enemy because he wants to work with Joe Burrow. I'd love that.
That's pushing it. That's
for
pushing
possible.
it.
I don't think it's pushing it that much.
The enemy could go to New York and coach Trevor Lawrence. I think that might be a little more thing. And there's other options the enemy will have that might be a little more intriguing than
just
Cincinnati.
let me have my one thing. I let you tear my hopes down of an upset. So I'm still holding out hope that they fix their coaching situation. Anybody I'll go to Kelcey next because I'm pissed off at your team anyways because you made us look bad. Andy Dalton beat the shit out of us in Cincinnati. Well, what's going to happen in this one? Do you see an upset? Is this going to be an island game?
Don't worry, I'm pissed at the Cowboys too. They ruined their chances of ever getting a top 10 pick. Because random mystery news, random facts, all the way down to Mike Tomlin's record versus random coaches that he's never had success against, and I can't get a reason to pick the Bengals, so I'm sorry. I just have to go Steelers.
The only reason that Jimmy would have had for his team to win this game is if Joe Burrow was playing on one leg, and then they might have had a little bit of a chance, but still no.
Look, if Joe Burrow wheels his way out, I'm picking the Bengals immediately. I will call up a news conference, and it will be purely I'm switching my pick from the Steelers to the Bengals. But right now, it's the Steelers.
I don't think they're going to win, but I will say that the last few times the Bengals and Steelers have played on Monday Night Football, they've been pretty significant games. It was the last time Ryan Shazier unfortunately played in the NFL. It was a Monday night game. I watched that one from the start to finish in my dorm room. And then Juju breaking Vontaze Burfict's jaw for the hit on Antonio Clown was also on a Monday night game between the Steelers and Bengals. So I think it would be entertaining. Hopefully it's not as much of a blowout as I'm expecting. But I'm going to you next, Jim. Let me have it. How bad did the Bengals get beat?
If Joe Burrow can pull off a Byron Leftwich moment at Marshall, have his offensive lineman carry him every single play, then maybe there's a shot that the Cincinnati Bengals can complete a first down. Bengals, sorry, Jimmy. I do apologize. Steelers roll big time. No matter who's at quarterback for the Bengals, Steelers get back on track.
And it could be either Brandon Allen or Ryan Finley. They've both been pulled for each other, I think, 3 or 4 times. So who knows who's going to be the quarterback? DJ, put me out of my misery. Finish me off. Let me have it. What do you think happens in this one?
I think Taylor just said Ryan Finley will start because Brandon Allen's hurt, if I saw that correctly. And, I mean, Ryan Finley wasn't there last week and they got destroyed. So it's going to be different than last week. They're going to probably lose by 60 instead of a 30 because Ryan Finley's terrible. Give me the Steelers by a lot, unfortunately. I don't like it, though. No. I'm ashamed of you, Kelcey. You're supposed to pick against the Steelers every week. It is your brand. You can't change that.
I at this point, I'm talking about possibly making a comeback in the Pickem. I can't risk it
Your comeback started when you picked
My
against the
moral
Steelers.
high ground is so low, I can risk picking the Steelers this week. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I did that
Picking
with
against the
Philip
Steelers is why
earlier,
you're here.
That's true, yeah.
You
It's
forgot
gonna
where you
be-
came from. I'm ashamed.
I wish this was a Sunday night game so that half the country wouldn't be able to watch it with DirecTV not having NBC. But since it's on ESPN, it's just I can't say that I'm excited to watch how that one's going to play out on primetime TV in front of millions and millions of people.
It should have been playing while we were recording this on Saturday.
It should have been, or they could have just not played it. I don't think the Bengals have to go out there on the field anymore. We all just know that whoever they're playing is going to win. Let's just pack it up for the rest of the season. Let's pull a Coach K, pull our team off the field. We think this is bigger than sports. We're not going to play the rest of the season, not because we're going to get our asses kicked, but because we want to be safe for COVID protocols. That's what the Bengals need to do.
Just pull a LeVar Ball and pull the team at halftime. Just wave them off really quick in the middle of a play.
Can we do that? Is that a thing? Can the Cowboys do that for the rest of the season too?
The Cowboys should have done it after Dak got hurt. It should have been a while ago.
Should have done it after Mike McCarthy got hired, but that's a different story.
Don't tease me like that, man.
And then moving forward, the Browns and Giants in the next game could be kind of interesting. I think, has it been confirmed that Daniel Jones isn't playing? Because he shouldn't have been playing last week. He was definitely.
Yep, Colt McCoy is the guy.
Yeah, so it's going to be Colt McCoy, Baker Mayfield. It's a interesting game with playoff implications towards the end of the season featuring the Browns and the Giants. It's been a while since we've been able to say something like that. But let's go ahead. Let's go around the group. I'll start. Zach in this one has the Browns pulling out the win. I'll go to Kelcey next.
I said the Brown. I am kind of contradicting myself a little bit because I said the Browns are still the little brothers in that division, but they're playing the Giants. It's an easy one for them. Colt McCoy, yeah, he had a good showing a few weeks back, but Baker Mayfield just has to make the smart plays against this Giants team, and for that reason, I'm going the Browns here.
I think that it's two young coaches that are proving themselves to be pretty good in Kevin Stefanski and Joe Judge. People were laughing at Joe Judge when he was having his assistant coaches run laps, and I think it's still ridiculous. But whatever he's done with that team, I think has done what it needed to do with the culture change. So I think that he's done a good job, and that's why the Giants are still in playoff contention. That and the fact that their division sucks. Jim, what do you think when you look at this Giants-Browns matchup? What do you think's happening in this one?
I see a very, hard-fought game, struggling game. The Giants are still considered a team battling for a postseason position because how crappy that division is. But I think you're going to see an angry Cleveland team in this game. And for a team that lost to Baltimore last week, I see them bouncing back tremendously this week. And for some odd reason, with the Daniel Jones injury, in my opinion, that's going to be the difference of this game. And you look at the quarterbacks, McCoy versus Baker Mayfield. And ever since OBJ's gone away from Cleveland, Cleveland's actually been playing pretty well. And for the Giants, they got to win this game. They got to keep up with Washington, in my opinion. Yes, they have the tiebreaker over Washington, but they can't fall. They lose this week. Washington wins next week or this week, they're down 2 games already. And that's with 2 weeks left. That's not good. So you're going to see a hard-fought game. This is actually going to be a very sneaky, good playoff type of game here. Both teams are trying to get into the postseason, so there's something to fight on the line here. But give me the Browns and a tough one, but the Browns.
DJ, what are your thoughts on this one, and who do you have pulling out the win? Are you going to be the lone Giant supporter?
I wanted to be, but I can't do it. As much as I'd like to use Colt McCoy as a reason to pick them, I really can't. James Bradbury's not playing, so their number one corner's down. Jarvis is coming in, and I just talked about how I think the loss of the Ravens will help the Browns out in the long run. So I think it starts here. They take care of the Giants. Colt McCoy makes it a little bit less embarrassing, but I'm not. Yeah, it's still an NFC East team, so I'll take the Browns.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation to say the least, and I do think that it'll be more entertaining, like Jim said, and it'll be more competitive than what people think. But I do see the Browns probably taking that one as well. Moving forward now to the last game that we're gonna go in depth in, kind of the last of the decent matchups, I would say. Buccaneers at the Falcons. Matt Ryan going up against Tom Brady again, and now at this point in the season, the Buccaneers I think are one of the teams that you could say underperformed the most out of anybody in the league from their expectations and just the way that their roster's set up. They should be a lot better than 7-5 and not leading their division. But I'll start with you, Jim. What do you think is the problem with the Buccaneers, and do they overcome them and get a big divisional win this weekend in Atlanta?
I don't know what's wrong with the Buccaneers. They have too much talent on that team to be 2 to 3 games above 500 at this point. Right now, the playoffs start now. I think they're the 6th seed in the NFC, maybe the 7. But then you look on the other side of the ball or the other side of the field with the Falcons. They had a great chance a couple of weeks ago to knock off the Saints. Didn't do it. And it's just, to me, it's that the talent's there for the Falcons. The talent's there for the Bucs. It's just you can't put a finger on these two teams because one week they show you something that they are making the turn to be, a deep run postseason team. And the next week it's, okay, we're going to struggle here. And the Buccaneers are a pure definition of that this year. Look at all that weapons they have. Gronk, Evans, Brady, Brown, and the list goes on. And you're telling me they're 7-5, 8-6 type of team at this point of the year? That's terrible. For the Falcons, they're going to be stingy, and the Falcons do what they do best. They either blow big leads or win games, and they're not supposed to win. And this game sounds like that type of game. But I can't count out Brady because he has history against the Falcons and beating the Falcons in big games. And this is a big game for the Buccaneers if they want to even think about getting better playoff positioning in the NFC. The division's out of the picture, but they have to win this game to have a good position in the postseason. If they want to make the postseason, they could still find their way out of the postseason.
Was 3rd in the league in yards after catch last year. They would throw him the ball more often, especially with Tom Brady's short passing preference. But I'm going to say the Buccaneers win just because I'm tired of the Falcons disappointing me. And the Buccaneers are still a playoff team where the Falcons are a travesty.
Nico, I'm going up to you, and I know that you heard the 28-3 reference Jim made with the Brady winning in big games against the Falcons. You mentioned it on our show. Are you sticking with the Bucs beating the Falcons in Atlanta?
Yeah, no, I'll reiterate exactly what I said on our show, and that is, it doesn't matter if the Falcons are playing someone who's either played for that Patriots team who was 28-3, or if they're playing that Patriots team, that is in the back of their head. And seeing Tom Brady on the other sideline, as much as I root against Tom Brady, that's a mindset. And the Falcons don't have that strong mindset yet. Matt Ryan will always be known as the guy that blew the biggest lead in Super Bowl history. It's a very, very bad thing for Atlanta. I'm picking Bucs here big. Atlanta can't get over that mindset, in my opinion. Same thing with the Browns and their division, but it's a thing that's a culture change, and it's going to take a lot. It may take a new quarterback in Atlanta to. I mean, Matt Ryan hasn't been bad, but it may take a new quarterback for that to be out of their heads. But considering Tom Brady's on the other side against Matt Ryan, I'm picking the Buccaneers. It doesn't matter if the Falcons get a big lead. I'm still picking the Bucs.
Nico's new nickname might have to be Sigmund Freud or something, because he's talking a lot about mentality and psychology. I love it as a sociology guy in college. But Kelcey, you're the last one to make a pick for this game. Bucs and Falcons. Is this going to be one where you try and make up a game on everybody else? Go with the upset in Atlanta?
Nah, let me just list 4 reasons why. Darqueze Dennard, Julio Jones, Ricardo Allen, Marlon Davidson. All ruled out for the game with injury. I'm sorry, you don't just miss Julio, Ricardo Allen, and Darqueze Dennard and think you're going to have a chance against Tom Brady. It just doesn't happen. The one thing that the Bucs, you keep looking at them, and they spread the ball out so much, but they're only spreading the ball out for like 50 yards at most per player. I mean, Mike Evans led last week with 54 yards. Scotty Miller had 1 catch for 48 yards and a touchdown. Antonio Brown had like 44, 45 yards. Look, you gotta have weapons that can do something after the catch, which is probably the only reason Tampa hasn't been great is they're catching the ball and going down. But you also have to have guys to guard these guys to stop them, and Atlanta has nobody to stop them. So give me the Bucs in this one. This is embarrassing for the Falcons at this point.
This has a possibility, I think, of being one of the worst played games, just because both teams probably both teams are liable to have an off day, and then this will be ending up being one of those ugly games where not too fun to watch. The rest of the matchups, I guess we could talk a little bit more about the Bears and Vikings, because on our show I mentioned how that was such a toss-up for me. I'm not sure who I'm going with because the Bears just dominated the Texans and won by 30, scored 30 with Mitchell Trubisky. Never thought that was going to happen. But the Bears and Vikings, what are we thinking about this one? And I'll start with DJ in this game. Bears, Vikings, what's going to happen?
So I think the Vikings are better, and we saw that the first time they played. However, in typical Bears fashion, right when we talk about them just getting rid of everybody, cleaning house, and starting over, this is when they reel off a couple wins and make people rethink it. And then in the offseason, they'll be like, one more year for Nagy, one more year for Pace. Then it's the same thing all next season. So one more year for Trubisky, blah, blah, blah. So right on cue, the Bears win a few games that they probably should have lost for the betterment of their future, and they screw themselves for one more year by winning this game. So I'll take the Bears, and I'll say they just get after Kirk Cousins and frustrate him, which takes like one hit, so that won't take long.
If Zach was here, I'm sure that he would be not happy to hear that. I know that he wants them to lose, and I know that it's probably going to be detrimental to them if they do end up winning. Jim, what do you think happens in this one?
The curse of bitch Trubisky will continue in Chicago. Yep, you heard me right. Yeah. And Trubisky, in my opinion, 1 minute he's the most hated quarterback in Chicago. Next minute he is the most hated person in Chicago. Can you leave him alone type of situation. This game, in my opinion, just solidifies how average that division is this year and how great the Packers are. But Trubisky, 1 minute there, they want off with the head with him, and the Nick Foles is the savior, Satan Nick, and then Foles shows you why he is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. Then Trubisky comes in there and does what he did last week and what he did 2 weeks ago. So for me, I'm going to side. You know what? I love the curse of Trubisky continuing in Chicago. Let them suffer. Sorry, Zach, but you're Chicago. Not good things happen in Chicago. Yeah, I'm still kind of salty about your Bulls winning so many championships back in the day. So, yeah, give me Chicago. Let the suffering continue.
Niko, tell me what's on your mind about this one. Bears, Vikings, what's going on?
Oh, it's easy. I'm picking the Bears because I not only is Zach a Bears fan, but I have a lot of friends who are Bears fans that live in the Illinois area from my days of my first college when I went to. But yeah, they're all Bears fans. They absolutely hate Trubisky, and for that reason, I'm picking the Bears because if the Bears win this game and win a few more games, there's a good shot that the Bears keep Trubisky for another year and keep Nagy for another year, and that's the last thing any of them want to see. Any Bears fans wants to see, because that defense is pretty good. That Bears defense is pretty good. They have a lot of talent. They just it's just tough that Trubisky is the leader of that team.
Haskins is trash.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with that statement. I played with Dwayne in an All-Star game once, and wasn't impressed then and haven't been impressed now. Kelcey, Washington football team or the Seahawks?
Seahawks, just because Seahawks.
Seahawks because of the Seahawks. Zach is also picking the Seahawks. So that brings us to Jim. What are you thinking here, JDash? Seahawks or are you going with your co-host's favorite team, the Washington football team?
A Washington team will win this Sunday, and it's the Sea Chickens. Give me the Seahawks.
Oh, boy. There we go. Sea Chickens for Jim. Niko.
I didn't think you could insult two teams at once until just now.
It's impressive, huh? The Bostonians know what they're doing when it comes to
especially
chirping.
the teams that don't know when to run the football on the 2-yard line.
Niko, Seahawks, Washington. Who you got?
Easy. It's going to be a sweep. I'm picking the Seahawks. The Seahawks are way better fundamentally, and the Washington football team, it's a good story, but Alex Smith isn't your starting quarterback, so you have less of a chance. So I'm picking Seahawks big. Lock of the week. Drew Lock of the week, by the way.
Drew Lock of the week. Okay. If they end up somehow pulling this off, going to the playoffs and making a little bit of a run, I want a Disney movie made about this team with as much adversity as they've gone through. That's a clean sweep for the Seahawks against the Washington football team. Niko, going right back to you for the next game. Jaguars and Ravens. Who do you got winning that one?
Another easy one. Ravens here. Lamar Jackson is woken. He has awakened, ladies and gentlemen. And the Jaguars, unless you hand the ball off to James Robinson and he has a 350-yard game, there's no chance the Jaguars win this game. I'm going Ravens.
Jim, you're out in Jacksonville. Are you going with a hometown team, or do you think Lamar pulls off another win against the Jags?
Not so fast there, Nico. The Jaguars are competitive against the Ravens. Just not this year. Give me the Ravens.
Nice little flip.
Lee Corso would have been proud. Zach of the Gridiron Gallery podcast also likes the Ravens in this one. Kelcey, up to you. Who do you got in this matchup?
Yeah, once Lamar dropped the Browns off at the Super Bowl, he's unstoppable. Give me the Ravens.
DJ, he's a king in the bathroom. Do you think he's going to be king on the field again? Do you think Lamar gets a big win over the Jaguars?
He takes his dump before the game this time, and they drop 30 points in the first quarter. Give me the Ravens.
Boy, there we go. No Paul Pierce situation. None of us are predicting another Paul Pierce situation for Lamar Jackson. Next up, Jets-Rams. This is going to be an easy one. I can already feel where everybody's going, but I'll go ahead and ask anyways. DJ, Jets-Rams.
The Jets don't even finish the game. Give me the Rams.
Kelcey, going upset?
Jets suck. Give me the Rams.
Just in the season. All right. Zach is also going with the Rams. And now that brings us to Jim. Do the Jets break the 0-16, or is Niko going to get a couple $100 at the end of the season?
I think Nico needs to start looking for a bank account to get cash for that bet he made. Give me the Rams.
All right, Niko, I know who you're picking.
Straight cash, homie. Straight cash. Rams win big. Aaron Donald will ruin Sam Darnold / Joe Flacco's career, and it's going to be worse and worse and worse in New York. And Trevor Lawrence will never wear a Jets jersey. He'll be a Jacksonville Jaguar. Just to add insult to injury.
Oh, boy.
He'll say, I don't want to play for this shit organization.
You don't believe in his fiance's fingernails being painted green and white as a
and when that happens?
Yeah, I mean, they'll keep Adam Gase for another year because for some reason that Jets organization trusts him, and they'll draft Justin Fields #1.
You guys will have to listen to our episode this week because my brother's going to be a guest on our show when we do our college football pick'em. But I'm sure Niko and him are going to talk about the Jets, and you might see my brother cry. If Nico's going to be this harsh with the Jets, we might have a crying giant Division I football player on our show. But let's wrap this up. Last game of the pick'em, Eagles and Cardinals. Niko, does Jalen Hurts pick up a win over his the guy he took over Oklahoma from in Kyler Murray, or do the Eagles did they get lucky last week?
Oh man, I don't wish Oklahoma Sooner fans wish they had either one of these quarterbacks still. They could probably possibly be in the playoff.
Jim, who do you got in this one?
Cardinals.
Zach is also going with the Redbirds of Arizona. That leads us to Kelcey. Are you picking an upset in this one? Do you think the Eagles have what it takes to get another win?
Nah, look, I said it before. Jalen Hurts is a game manager who can run. He showed that last week. Kyler Murray, on the other hand, is a playmaker who can throw. Give me Kyler Murray all day long. He has DeAndre Hopkins to throw it up to.
DJ, wrap this up for us. Who do you got in this one, Eagles or Cardinals?
Cardinals defense is coming alive, and Kyler Murray's healthy and will score 30 points for my fantasy team. Knock on wood. Give me the Cardinals.
All right, that's a clean sweep for the Cardinals in that one. That is the end of our NFL Pick'em for Week 15. We will keep you guys updated on the stats next week once we know the results of all the games. And that's going to bring us towards the end of this episode of NFL Unhinged. Thank you guys for tuning in before the games start. We know you guys have been enjoying this more and more. And as we continue to put these out, we've gotten really good response from everybody. So we appreciate everybody taking the time to listen. I'm going to go ahead and let the guys give their plugs as to where you can find them individually. And we'll start with High Low Sports. So Kelcey, how about you tell the people where they can find you guys?
Yeah, guys, you can always follow us on Twitter, High Low Sports, Anchor, High Low Sports, YouTube, High Low Sports. We're everywhere as High Low Sports. Just make sure you add the sports because otherwise you end up with a female talk show, which there's nothing wrong with that. They're actually a fantastic duo. But yeah, no, you want to listen to us, not them. Sorry, ladies, but we're the better side of this.
There you go. Listen to High Low Sports on the network live at Thursdays at 2 p.m., right?
Yeah, Thursdays, 2 p.m. Every week. So 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time.
Kelcey and DJ have a great show, and they normally debate and have good top 10 lists. So if you're in the mood for a show like that, be sure to check them out. Jim, let the people know about the network and your show, the JDash Show, where they can listen and follow you and Carlos.
The JDash Show premieres every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 9 a.m. You can find us on Anchor, Spotify, all your podcast platforms at JDash Show. You can follow us on Twitter at JDash Show. Follow the network at Network Unhinged and unhingedsn.com.
All right, and there's plenty of big things coming up. We got a ton of new hours of content coming at you guys in 2021 and more network crossover shows for the NBA and NHL. So I'm going to give it over to Niko to talk a little bit more about that because he's going to be on the NBA show, and then he'll tell you guys where you can listen to the far end of the bench and where you can find us as well.
Of course, if you guys are listening to this on Sunday morning, you can check out the Monday or tomorrow. If you guys are listening to this on Monday, you probably listened to the NBA show already. But it's called 3 in the Key. We're going to have myself, the guys from the Reserves podcast, one of the best young up and coming basketball podcasts on the network, or in general, sorry, not on the network, in general. And then obviously Dennis from Sports and Things. And then we will have Jim as our first guest as well. On Wednesdays, which is 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, and our episodes drop on Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff directly after. And then our YouTube page. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, turn the notifications on. But we will also have our episodes coming out on Thursdays, so you'll have to look out for that. And this week, upcoming week, we have a full bowl prediction show. It's going to be a lot of fun, and seeing what goes on, especially after championship weekend, what's happened so far. So be on the lookout for that, man. And it's been a lot of fun. We're going to continue putting out great content for you guys.
Yeah, you won't go wrong if you follow any show on the Unhinged Sports Network, any show on associated with this show as well.
And use that Fanatics link as well, especially with all the bowl winners and everything. Go get yourself some gear. Use our link, man. It's a lot of good stuff there.
Using the Fanatics link is the easiest way to help out the network. It gives everybody a little bit of extra money that we can use to put into our content in the future and continue to drive this thing forward, because it's going in the right direction and it's going to continue to go. Go ahead, Jim.
Also, Unhinged YouTube page will be back this week. Yes, it will be back this week. And we'll get that launched, and you'll get episodes from all of our podcasts, video presentations, maybe the NFL Unhinged show on this one, on the YouTube page for Unhinged, and on FTOP Pod. So, yes, we're going to every single platform. 2021 is just around the corner, so get ready.
I'm still waiting on a renegade from Niko here on his TikTok.
I will never be doing that, man. Trust me, you'll never see that from me.
Look, you heard it from the commission. We're going to every platform. That means we got to have somebody renegade. Niko, you're the most experienced TikToker here.
I am not the most experienced TikToker. Jimmy is the one that takes the TikToks.
Oh,
Jimmy runs the TikToks here. Don't look at me, man. It ain't on me.
In that case, then Jimmy needs to pull a renegade.
We'll see. I've done the baby dance, so maybe I can pull off a renegade.
If not, I mean, it's that or the WAP. Take your pick.
All right.
Hell no! Please don't make Jimmy do that.
I don't think I'm doing that one. But this has been NFL Unhinged for Week 15. For myself, Jimmy Pilato, Niko Bryant of the Far End of the Bench podcast, DJ and Kelcey of the High Low Sports podcast, and Jim Muenier of the JDash Show and the Unhinged Sports Network. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.